Good afternoon, everyone. I didn't hear the introduction, but my name is Patrick Holden, and I'm very happy indeed to be with you this afternoon and for this invitation to come to the Food Tank Summit. I just wanted to make one observation. I've been coming to food conferences for many, many years, and I don't think I've ever been to a conference with so many young people and with such a clear majority of the delegates women, which is a fantastic thing, and obviously a sign that something is afoot, which is really wonderful. I have been over the Christmas, I'm a dairy farmer, and have been on a farm in West Wales I'm farming about 300 acres with a herd of 80 dairy cows, produce Ayrshires, they are a native breed, producing milk for cheese making. And we're in our 41st year on the farm, and during that time we've used no nitrogen fertilizer and no pesticides, and we've tried to farm as sustainably as possible. And over the the Christmas break period, my herdsman went away, so I've been really in the thick of it, getting up very early in the morning, milking the cows, scraping up, bedding down, feeding the calves, and doing all the other jobs, because we've got lots of young stock as well, so it's about 150 head of cattle, and then repeating the whole thing in the afternoon. And it makes you very mindful of the work that goes into producing milk. And then I got relieved by my herdsman coming back after the break, and I went back to Bristol, where the offices of the Sustainable Food Trust are, and I went into Tesco's. And this is the beginning of my talk about true cost accounting in the food system. And I went to the milk aisle, and there's various milks there, you know, full fat and half fat and all the rest of it. But there's a big thing going on in the UK at the moment. 4 pints of milk, which is 2.2 litres or thereabouts, there's a price war going on. And all the big supermarkets are competing downwards. It's a race to the bottom. And the current price to beat, which Aldi and Lidl, you may not have heard of those two supermarkets, they're the ones that are gaining the market share from Tesco's and Morrison's and the middle market people. They're all charging 89 pence for 4 pints, not your pints, our pints, because they're all different, aren't they? Which is a bit of a muddle about this, of milk. So I'm sorry about switching between pints and litres, because we're all muddled up as well. But essentially, the price per litre of milk is 40 pence for that milk. For the organic milk, which I haven't got time to talk about in detail, it's a pound a litre. That's the retail price, a pound a litre for organic milk. Normal, conventional milk, 40 pence a litre. And that really shocked me. So I started to think about that, because that means I know what price conventional dairy farmers are getting for their milk at the moment, because of course I study these things, I get the dairy farmer magazines and all that kind of thing. They are getting a price which is way below the cost of production, about 22 to 25 pence. We're getting 40 pence for our milk. And even that price, which sounds so much more, is actually just on the cost of production, arguably, depending on how borrowed you are, slightly less than the cost of production. And this begs the question, what's going on, and what is the true cost of milk? How could it possibly be that we could be selling milk from industrial production at 40 pence a litre, 22 pence to the farmer, when those same systems of farming are costing so much to the environment and public health? And how could it also be that the most unsustainable milk is the cheapest and the most sustainable milk is the most expensive? Now, I got really exercised by this, as you do if you're a dairy farmer and you see this. So I wrote a blog about it on our SFT newsletter, which you can have a look at, because you can subscribe to it. You just go to our Sustainable Food Trust website, and you'll see you can just log on to our newsletter. And it's had a lot of reaction, because at the end of this blog I suggested that actually we needed to have a fair trade label for organic milk, because until now fair trade's been associated with tea, coffee and bananas in developing countries, and not feather-bedded European, in my case, farmers who are benefiting of the common agricultural policy and all the rest of it, which is completely nonsense, because we really are facing a situation where the small family dairy farm is being sort of culturally cleansed by price. But it's not dramatic, so it doesn't make the news because they just quietly give up. And because the bank manager says, I'm sorry, we're going to pull the plug on you because you're just too worried, because there's so long you can go on selling milk at below the cost of production. So this seems to me the most extraordinary thing, that all these things are going on, that the price of milk is so low that we don't know the hidden costs, we don't know the true cost. And we need to know that. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about. The Sustainable Food Trust has decided that we are going to make true cost accounting, the investigation of this issue, a focus of our work over the coming period. And we've already put quite a lot of time into it. The Prince of Wales gave a speech in Georgetown University in 2011 called The Future of Food, in which he mentioned this. You know, why is it that the polluter isn't paying, and how much are all those costs? The Sustainable Food Trust then took this on and had a conference in Kentucky in April 2013, where we brought together 60 or so experts, and we had a discussion about this. And then we took it to London in December 2013, where we had 500 or 600 people over 3 days looking at this issue. And what we wanted to do was to change the situation where, if you are a farmer or foods business today and you're looking at the business case, the way to make money, the most profitable thing to do is to farm as intensively as possible. That's the way you might make a margin if you're any good at it. And the least profitable to do if you're a farmer or a food business is to sell sustainably produced food. There are exceptions, obviously entrepreneurs and all the rest of it, but the odds are stacked against you because the polluter's not paying and the beneficial outcomes of sustainable food systems are not being rewarded financially to those who are involved with them. And conversely, if you're a citizen and a consumer, you'll pay most for the food with a good story, which is benefiting the planet and public health, and least for the food which is doing damage to public health and the environment. So we need to identify why that is the case, and that's really the task, to identify and categorize the various costs and benefits arising from different food systems. And some of those issues, costs and benefits, are to do with emissions, gases going into the atmosphere, nitrous oxide, ammonia, that sort of thing, pollution of water, general pollution, of depletion or building of natural capital, that could be soil, or it could be depletion of minerals. Are there proper prices put on that? So if a farmer builds soil fertility, is he or she rewarded for that? Or if you deplete soil fertility, that's like depleting the balance sheet, so that ought to be properly costed. Biodiversity, that's come up a lot at this event. Impact on human health, that's probably the mother of all externalities, as economists call them. So this is a whole range of different issues, from antibiotics resistance to endocrine disruptors. I'm sure that'll come up in this discussion, and their effect on maybe cancers and other ill health effects, obesity, diabetes, infectious diseases. No one is properly doing work to connect up the methods of food production that have been dominant over 40 or 50 years, and the negative health outcomes, or indeed the positive health outcomes. And then finally, there's more difficult to quantify stuff: cultural, spiritual health, ethical issues like animal welfare. These are more difficult to quantify, but they need to be. So we need to identify them, and then we need to categorize them, and we need to quantify them. We need to work out how much damage is being caused, so that we can then put a price on the damage caused and then work out what to do about it. And an example of this would be nitrogen fertilizer, where there has been some work done. The European Union, some scientists in the European Union have done work, and they've worked out, and I'm putting this in US figures, that 1 ton of ammonium nitrate costs a US farmer about $387. Anybody who knows about this better than I do can correct me. The benefit to the farmer, because obviously it's a business case for buying it, that's why they're using it, is between 666 and 2,666 per US ton. But the negative cost, the damage to the environment, pollution, human health, depletion of natural capital, etc., are between $990 and $5,172 per US ton of ammonium nitrate. So in other words, if the damage done was charged to the farmer or the nitrogen fertilizer manufacturer, it would completely cancel out the business case for using it. And it would transform agriculture all over the world, but that's not happening. So we need to put a price on all the externalities, positive and negative, and then that will give us the information to use various policy and economic instruments to tax the polluter, regulate by banning the worst practices, that just came up in the last session with food waste, legislate in other ways to restrict the capacity of people to do damage to the environment and human health, redirect the subsidies of the Farm Bill. Yes, I've run out of time. I'll be very quick. Price natural capital. Maybe you could pay farmers to be carbon stewards. If we could measure soil carbon outcomes of different farming systems, we can reward the ones that increase carbon and penalise the ones that don't. We can use market and certification. We've been using markets all along. That's what the organic food market is about, but it's not enough on its own. We need to combine it with these other policy instruments. And we need to have risk-related insurance stuff and other things like that, where we can recognise that some farming practices are damaging and maybe have, insurance stuff which will start to correct it. And if we do all that and we work together on that, we will arrive, hopefully, at a situation where we can achieve a situation where there is a good business case for sustainable food production and a much less good business case for intensive and industrial food production. Now, to do that is going to take an enormous international collaborative effort. Work has already started on this. There's a man called Pavan Sukhdev, an Indian man who's the instigator of a project called TEEB, the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity, who's already done a lot of work on that and pricing natural capital. But he came to our London event. He said, we need to have like a Stern-type review of farming and food systems externalities, and it needs to involve multiple institutions from all over the world. That project has started. It's got about 6 million euros from various sources. The European Commission, the Norwegian government, and also the Moore Foundation in the US has contributed to it so far, and hopefully others will come in. And Food Tank are going to be doing some work on this, which is fantastic news. This needs to be an international collaboration between multiple institutions and individuals all over the world, because we need to do this, because until we do it, the greatest single barrier to mainstreaming sustainable food systems will remain in place. So let's collaborate in this new spirit. Thank you.